got it so good, have we? I mean, if our great-grandparents are here now, what would they be saying to us? How lucky are we? I mean, with our fancy houses, with indoor toilets, double glazing, central heating, massive television sets on the wall, hundreds of TV channels, super fast broadband, beaming down from a cloud down to our devices, which are stuck in our pockets, are usually surgically attached to our hands. We're connected to everything. We can get food delivered to our door. We don't even need to leave the home. But if we do leave the home, we can get an Uber. It's so easy. We're more connected than ever before, aren't we? But are we really connected to each other, to the environment, with ourselves? We're wealthier than ever before, but are we any healthier? Mentally, we're not. I think we're miserable. It's estimated there are 17 million people in this country right now struggling with mental illness. The majority, depression and anxiety. And what's worse, 20% of people, 42% of men under the age of 45 have considered suicide. And I'm one of them. But I believe that we can fix our own mental health by taking just a few simple steps. I'm going to show you how. And before we do, I want you to do me a favour. We're going to do a quick body scan. So we sit up straight. Very compliant. Close your eyes. I just want you to think from your head to your feet and just count how many parts of your body are in any discomfort or pain right now. It'll only take you a second or two. And when you've done, open your eyes. Brilliant. Okay. Do you have a number in your head? Yeah, good. Okay. We'll come back to that number shortly. Okay. I work with hundreds of business mentors. Mentors are absolutely fantastic. They help us make decisions, they're sounding boards, they share with us lots of different things. Their successes, sometimes their mistakes. One of my favourite mentoring stories is about a guy called Richard Branson. You might have heard of him. He had a mentor called Sir Freddie Laker, and he asked him, how do I succeed or fail in the airline business? So that really worked for Richard. I think we can all agree. So I want to share with you now my top tips for burning out and having a breakdown. So let's see how many of these things that you're doing right now. First of all, set yourself ridiculous goals, massive targets, the kind of things that are just too high. But these are not for your benefit, these are to impress other people. You need to be a perfectionist as well, because only being the best is good enough. And if you make a mistake, really beat yourself up. Failure is not an option. If things are getting you down, keep it to yourself, because nobody wants to hear you whinge and whine. There's no point in resting, because resting's for losers. And you can get by in 3 to 4 hours of sleep per night, can't you? Let's think about your mental health and your physical health. Okay. You can get your 5 a day from takeaways, I'm pretty sure about that. Beer, wine, cider, gin, it's all made from water, so there's your hydration. So yes, I've done all of these things, and if you follow these tips as well, you too could have a breakdown just like me. See some nodding heads. That wasn't the plan, obviously. Now, when I was growing up, I'm the youngest of a large family in the beautiful town of Oldham, on a council estate, to be exact. I left school at 16 and I got a job in insurance. Yeah, I know, teenagers are well jealous, working in insurance as a teenager. I really enjoyed it though at first, because I was making coffee and doing the filing, and that was enough beer money for me for the weekend. And I got a promotion, and that was more beer money. And then I got accreditations, and more challenges and more targets. And I achieved these targets, and the more targets I achieved, the more competitive I became, and the more money I earned. I got a job in Manchester, got more money, more competitive, more targets, working harder, longer hours. I moved to another city. I married my beautiful wife, Nikki. Had 2 children, Brandon and Kirsten. Hi, son. Yeah, that's my son. Came back to Oldham, bought a bigger house, a detached house, 3 bedrooms, 2 cars and a drive, foreign holidays. Everything from the outside was looking really good, but I'm working so hard and spending more time doing my job than I am actually spending time with my children and my family. And I was breaking down very, very slowly. Things got really difficult. So all I did, I set myself a massive target. And this target was, quite simply, I wanted to be the head of the department by the time I was 40. And I was so close. And then the recession happened. Working for an insurance company owned by a bank, that is not where you want to be. That goal was no longer attainable. I couldn't become the manager. So I did what I've always done best and worked even harder than ever before to get that job. And it just wasn't going to happen. Until eventually, after no sleep, working too hard, I had the inevitable breakdown. Have you ever broken something? A bone or something? Well, that day I broke my hippocampus. And that's a small part of the brain in the limbic system. And that's responsible for things like cognitive ability, spatial awareness, long and short memory. I don't remember a great deal about what happened that day or what happened afterwards. But I do remember going to the doctor, and the doctor telling me, you've got a stress-related illness, it's anxiety and depression. I told him he was wrong, because I'm a northern bloke and we don't have made-up illnesses. So I went back to work and had another breakdown. I went back to the doctors, he put me on medication, antidepressants. That's to level out my serotonin, a neurotransmitter which is responsible for joy and happiness, because I just couldn't feel it anymore. He signed me off for 4 weeks, but I went back in 2 because I'm competitive, and had another breakdown. I went back to the doctors and he increased the dosage of medication. The medication got higher and higher and higher. The pattern continued. And I realised that this was not the life for me anymore. So I made a big life-changing decision. And that was to do something quite big. And if you're on a lot of medication or you know someone on a lot of medication, don't allow them to make big decisions. Like quitting your well-paid job and buying a business you know nothing about. Spending all your life savings and putting the rest on credit card to buy 3 franchises to be exact. But this was the dream ticket. There's me being my own boss, my own rules, earning more money. The reality was working even harder than ever before, with anxiety and depression, for less money than ever before. This was a big mistake. But I cracked on. I worked as hard as I possibly could. My depression, my anxiety was getting worse. And then there was a panic attacks. It became daily, frequent, more and more frequent. And it became almost unbearable. But I worked hard, started to earn some money, and things were on the up. And then my pension was scammed out of me by a financial advisor. That's £100,000 gone. Then, when I'm looking for a break, my parents were diagnosed with cancer. Both of them. Terminal. So I wanted to spend as much time as possible with my parents. And I did, and I cared for them as much as I could. The problem was I'm not spending time in the business, and the business really struggled. My parents died, my business was liquidated. The continuation of breakdowns happened. And one February evening, I'm stood in a field, it's been snowing, I'm not sure how I've got there. I'm wearing shorts and slippers, and I'm terrified. It's happened again. I wanted to make another decision. And I thought about it. I'd failed at work, I'd failed in business, I'd failed as a father, as a husband, and as a son. And I decided that I wanted to end my life. I went home, and in the morning I told my wife. And how did you do that? She listened, she helped me, and I knew I couldn't do it. So I set a new goal then, a new objective, an aim, if you like. And that aim was just to stop the panic attacks and feel happy again. And when I've learned how to feel happy again as some form of joy, I want to share that with other people every single day. And that's been my new mission. But it wasn't easy. I've been diagnosed with anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and PTSD. I'm on a lot of medication. I need to become a human guinea pig. So that's what I did. I started changing, making new strategies. These strategies, from medication to coaching to counselling. I tried hypnotherapy. I tried Buddhist meditation. I tried to rest. I'm still not very good at resting either. But these strategies in isolation do work quite well. But there's no one size fits all. There's no silver bullet. There's no magic pill. We're all wired up completely different. And this is what I've learned. And some of the best strategies that I've learned are the ones that I found by accident. I like mentoring. Somebody asked me to be their mentor. And you know what? When I'm helping somebody else, I cannot be depressed because I'm out of my head and helping somebody else. Similarly, I do work for charities now. Working with charities in our local communities helps us feel part of something bigger. It gives us a higher purpose. And then there's talking. Okay, I've been speaking for over 40 years. I don't actually mean speaking. I mean public speaking. And public speaking I find really cathartic. I'm actually an introvert, believe it or not. But I find it cathartic and it keeps me focused and on point. My first public speaking gig, that was my mum's funeral. That was difficult. That was a 2-minute eulogy and it was painful. But I learned something, a lot. I learned that day that if I could do that under those circumstances, I could do anything. I also learned that to create a positive legacy and to fill a church, you don't need money or education. You just need values and love. And that's what she taught me. Then the speaking with groups. I went to something called Andy's Man Club just to see what it was all about. And it's a place where guys can just get things off their chest and just share their anxieties in a non-judgmental environment. I went with the idea of just looking and listening. Came to my turn and I spoke. Just a little bit at first, and then a bit more. And then they couldn't stop me. And after about 20 minutes, also what it felt like, I just offloaded all this weight, this baggage, and all these demons have been exercised. And for the first time I felt normal in years. Also in love with the idea of Andy's Man Club. I went to one of their charity events and they asked me to speak on stage, and that was fantastic. And I celebrated by having a few pints of lager afterwards. And I said, I'll do anything for these guys. So my friend Kelly said, do you fancy doing the Milltown half? I'll do anything, yeah, no problem. I've had a few pints of lager, I can't say no to a challenge me. So I just signed up to do the Milltown half marathon, 13.1 miles, 1,100 feet of ascents, one of the toughest, most gruelling half marathons in the country in my hometown of Oldham. Now, I wasn't a runner at that time. In fact, the only time I cheated at school was to avoid corporal punishment. They called it cross-country running. I set off with everybody else, hid round the back of the craft block, waited for the fast guys to come in, and just jogged in afterwards. And that seemed to work, but I've now been found out. I've got a big challenge in my hand. I need to do a half marathon, so I bought some trainers. I started running lamppost to lamppost at first, and then a 1 kilometre circuit around the back of the house. Then I signed up to park run. Who's done park run? Yes, Harry is. Park run's fantastic, isn't it? That's just genius. You're outside and you're connected with the environment, with other people, and there's just no competition except for some of the fast guys at the front. And I'm not one of those. So I set off running and I felt amazing, just like we all do. And what a feeling, and I'm thinking, wow, Mo Farah said, "Call Steve Cram, I'm coming for your records because this is my calling." And I'm running along and feeling pretty good, and then suddenly my lungs started to get tight and then my bones started to hurt. Then I realised things are getting quite difficult. And you know when somebody pushes a pram going past you? Somebody's walking dog walkers going past you. Pensioners are chatting going past you. This is me thinking, okay, bit enough more than I can chew. And I'm thinking of just escaping, nobody will see me going out through Alexandra Park doors. But then I heard a voice, and the voice came down and said to me, "Dear fella, you can do this." And that was my mate Sid. And Sid's become a running mentor to me ever since. Now, he waited for me at the end, he had to wait about 35 minutes for me to get there. And parkrun's become a big part of my routine every Saturday. That's what I look forward to. My confidence got better, my fitness got better. So I thought, I'm going to do another challenge. In fact, I'm going to do 18 challenges in 2018. And that started with a fell run, and then a trail run, and then I did a spin-a-thon, I climbed a mountain, I did a triathlon, I did 10 10k runs. And then in October of last year, I did my first, second and third half marathon. And I finished with the Milltown half marathon in my hometown. And it felt fantastic. I lost a lot of weight, 3 stone, and a lot of fat as well. But it's cost me a fortune. Bought new clothes, new trainers, entry fees. It's not cheap. I've gained a lot of friends though. A lot of friends from running clubs and park runs and triathlon clubs. These have become my mentors as well. They've really inspired me. I've listened to stories when we're on these long runs. Somebody was a breast cancer survivor. Somebody with pins in the leg who was told they were never going to walk again, let alone run. Somebody who's lost half of their body weight. A 75-year-old marathon veteran. And ultra-endurance athletes. One of them has done 268 miles in one go. These are genuine inspirations to me. These are my mentors. I've also gained a really good new best friend as well. It's not Sid, he's good. But new best friend is this guy I couldn't stand to be around. I couldn't stand him in the mirror, and that's me. I like spending time with myself now. But this wasn't about physical health, this is about mental health and how I've got better. And you know what, in the last 2 years I've not had one single panic attack since I've changed my life. Except for maybe 20 minutes ago when Sara called me. So I've learned a lot about myself in that time. And on these long runs, I get out of my head, and it's almost like meditation. There was this thing called runner's high, and I thought it was just a bit of a joke, a bit of a dream. But it's true, there is a runner's high. And after a while, you start to meditate. And you can start to work your stuff out then. I almost swore then. So you work your stuff out. I asked you before to think of a number when you did your body scan. Do you remember it? Yeah, okay. Who had a number less than 10? Good Lord, you guys are fit and healthy. Okay, I'm going to share with you my number. My number was 8. And a few weeks ago I did my first marathon. That was brilliant and painful and tough. And I really did hit the wall at 21 miles. And I've learned a strategy in running and life. I looked down and I thought, yeah, 8 parts of my body are absolutely screaming at me right now. But this body is getting me through a marathon. And you know what? I worked it out, and you can do this too. You've got 200 bones in your body. You've got 80 organs, 600 muscles, billions of neuroreceptors, and trillions of cells. We have got amazing bodies. These are amazing machines that we've got here. And we can fix ourselves physically and mentally. And that starts now, and that starts with you. It is okay to talk. Thank you.